But it's always fun to talk about, I guess, the differences in the Forza line. The Forza 60, which is our small little 60-watt light. It's great for stuff if you're using for interviews, for background, for key fill, backlight, you name it. Then jumping up in the next one is the Forza 300. And then with the 300, you've got the ability to have a much brighter light, but still gives you some uses in different ways that you might not think of. I mean, obviously Nanlite's got a lot of modifiers. I mean, you've got the 90, the 120, even the Monster 150, and the new lanterns that are out, which are really cool. All those different things with the 300 can give you a lot of different soft light and a lot of good different looks that you might be looking for. Because, you know, the Forza 300 and the Forza 500 have that standard Bowens mount on them. So it makes it really easy for you to kind of fit any of those accessories. And then lastly, the 500. And it's interesting to say, because to me, a lot of times when I talk to customers, they tell me, you know, this Forza 500 is a lot like an HMI. It's a less expensive HMI. And I get that a lot too. A lot of people will come to me and say, Barry, this thing really reminds me of like a 1.2K. It is. It really and truly has that output. I myself have used this 500 and I've used it outside and I've used it in direct sunlight. I mean, that's how amazing that this light really is. And I was able to use it just like I would use a traditional HMI PAR or HMI Fresnel. And depending on if you're using the FLG20, or if you're using, you know, a softbox or whatever, there's so much that you can do with that 500. And we hear that a lot because, you know, in the old days, you always had to rent HMIs. I mean, owning them was something, unless you were a grip company or something, you're not really doing. But the ability to be able to buy this light and own it yourself and have an HMI at your disposal, fantastic, truly fantastic. So I saw earlier, Kelly, that someone mentioned, okay, so Barry, tell us about the 200. Well, the 200 itself is the newer fixture that kind of fits in between the 60 and the 300. Now, I have seen the 200 so far. It's a bright light, definitely usable for any of the video work that you might be doing or photography work or stills. Or it's a much smaller head than what we have on the 500 and 300. So it's got a little more compactness to it, but it's bigger than the 60. And then remember that the sled itself is just a single battery sled, so it's a little more compact as well. Now remember, these lights all take the Sony V-mount style batteries, with the exception of the 60, which can actually use DV style batteries if you need to. The 300 uses the 14.8 volt batteries, and then on the new 200 and the 500, you can use the new 26 volt batteries, as well as, which Nanlite has just come out with, which is great. But you can also use on the 200 a 14.8 volt too. The 200 does have the standard Bowens mount, just like the 300 and 500. So you're gonna have all those lanterns and all the different modifiers that Nanlite has is going to fit on that fixture, just like what you normally would have.
300 and 500 and 200, Barry, all of them can use the same modifiers, right?
Correct. Correct. We can use all, because it's that standard Bowens mount. And then remember, we've got the Bowens adapter for the 60 now. So you can use a lot of those standard Bowens mounts on the adapter, and the 60 goes in behind it, and you're pretty much ready to go for that too. So you've got the ability to use any of Nanlite's wonderful modifiers that they have on the market to be able to create what it is that you're looking for. A couple of questions in the chat, Kelly. Walter, you're just asking Forza 200 street release. Actually, Walter, we have some Forza 200s in the US right now that they're going out to dealers currently. So folks will be starting to see the Forza 200 arrive at their local dealers and be able to start purchasing right away.